What is going on, everyone? My name is Andy. Welcome back to another FPL video. It's watch list time for game week 11. So I'm going to go through 3 players that have caught my eye that I'm thinking about bringing in this week or maybe very soon, given kind of recent performances, fixture turns and stuff like that, or maybe just price. So if you're enjoying this series of videos, please do give it a like. Really does help me out and appreciate all the support that we've had so far this season. And hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Just consider doing it. It doesn't cost you a thing. You're watching my videos anyway. Hopefully you're enjoying them. So hit that button and the notification bell. And I just want to talk about one quick thing before we get into the first player. Okay, so this is a promotion, but it's a little bit of self-promotion, right? I'm not being paid or anything like this. So I just wanted to quickly talk about it. It's about Movember. Now, if you don't know what Movember is, it's a charity that supports men's health, right? Whether that's mental health, raising awareness for kind of checking yourself for certain cancers and stuff like that. It does a lot. And I know a lot of people that watch this, like a massive percentage, are men. So it's a really important charity, I think, to kind of been helping and obviously promoting and raising awareness to the charity itself as well. So I've mentioned it a few times on videos and streams, but never done a little bit like this. So I did want to plug it, right? And there will be a link in the description below if you want to donate. Basically, throughout November, part of the Movember thing is to grow a mustache, which is what this thing is doing on my face. I don't usually have that throughout the year. So I've been doing that through November as well. I've also set myself the challenge to walk at least 10 kilometers every day. And so this morning I completed the final 10 kilometers. So I've walked at least 300 kilometers this month, maybe slightly more, but not by too much because I didn't want to kill the legs completely. And I've been completely sober, right? So no alcohol, no beer for the whole of November as well. So 3 things that I wanted to do to kind of raise awareness to this and try and raise some money. So I am up to the €1,000 target, but let's be honest, right? We always want more. We want to support these charities as much as possible. So if we can get to 1,500, which I know is big, but 1,500 before the end of today, before the end of the 30th of November, maybe I'll give it a few extra days as well for while people watch this video before game week 11, then I will do 1, maybe 2 Christmas streams in a Christmas onesie, which I'm sure you'd all like to see and laugh at. And I'll post the full picture as well because you're not going to be able to see all of it on screen as well. So if you do want to donate, if you can, I know it's a tough time for everyone right now, but if you can donate to Movember, there is a link in the description below. I'd really appreciate it if you click on that and just give whatever you can, right? It's a tough time for everyone right now, which is probably also a good reason to be supporting charities like this. So if you can help, please do. My legs are killing, 300 kilometers done, no beer. I'm looking forward to my first one at some point during December. And I'm also looking forward to getting rid of this, but it's been for a good charity, good cause. So if you can donate, please do. Link in the description below. And let's talk about the first player. Okay, so I did have some hesitations about Cavani coming into Man United for many more reasons than FPL, right? I just didn't like the recruitment that was going on. Feels like you should be looking ahead, not necessarily getting players in for short term. But he has shown what he can still do in that match against Southampton. 2 goals and assists coming off the bench is a pretty decent return, 15 points in total. He even outscored Bruno Fernandes, which was impressive enough. And so far he has 3 goals, 1 assist in just 127 minutes. So he's made a few sub-appearances. In fact, he still hasn't had a start in the league, right? So it's been a bit slow in terms of minutes, but a good one in terms of returns so far. The biggest issue, obviously, is, you know, whether or not he's going to get starts. And right now, the other issue is what's going to happen with his social media comments. So probably some of you have seen that doing the rounds. Obviously, he's made some comments on social media, not appropriate, and that is being reviewed by the Premier League. So we'll have to see what happens there. Maybe he'll get banned for a few games. If he does, obviously, he's not an option. Maybe we'll have to reassess down the line. But we'll address that when it happens. And I think one of the things about Man United in particular last year, like post-lockdown, was obviously they were scoring plenty of goals, but that's not necessarily always a thing with FPL, right? If a player's scoring goals, that's great, but you have to take other things into account, like who else do you want to buy, how much are players, and the thing with Man United players post-lockdown last season is they were cheap, right? Now, Bruno Fernandes is still showing that his price tag is decent, even though it's gone up 2 million. Maybe Rashford and Martial aren't quite as much. But Cavani is cheap, right? He's an £8 million forward, and that obviously makes him quite enticing. He's a big differential as well at 1.3%. And we've seen what he can do at previous clubs before. Obviously, at Paris Saint-Germain, he had a pretty good scoring record for most of his time there. The biggest thing for me is obviously going to be fitness, though. He hasn't started in the league yet. And you do wonder how much of this was to build up fitness, all these kind of cameos, maybe a few sub-appearances here or there. So a lot of this is going to depend on Champions League and how much he plays in there. The thing I do like about it, though, is he does give a focal point to Man United. And I think Martial did really well there last year. But the good thing about Martial is he can play wide. Rashford played up front, kind of. It's like split forward diamond formation against Southampton. So he can play up front too. But Rashford and Martial are also very, very good playing out wide. And to have Cavani through the middle, linking up with someone like Bruno Fernandes, is possibly a decent partnership that can be formed there. So I like that idea. Obviously, we haven't seen enough yet of this to know whether this is going to continue. But at 8 million, maybe it's not worth too much of a risk, especially when Calvert-Lewin after Burnley has a pretty tricky run of fixtures and people are looking to maybe get rid of him. And his price is quite close. I do think for West Ham away and Man City at home, you don't need to necessarily rush into it. But at the same time, if he started all 4 of those fixtures, you could see some pretty good returns for 8 million. So I am looking into it. I do want to see what happens in the Champions League. I do have a little bit of spare money. Even if I go and buy Bruno Fernandes, I've still got a bit of spare cash, which would let me get Cavani in at some point. So I'm not completely against the idea. I just wonder if his legs and his fitness are up to playing kind of 2 to 3 games in a space of 7 to 10 days, which is going to happen with the Champions League and then the Christmas fixtures as well. So that's the only thing that puts me off. But a bright spark against Southampton when he came on. It was quite a good substitution by Ollie to bring someone on at half time like that. Obviously, he was 2-0 down, so that helped. But decent substitution. He's shown what he can do. We know what he can do from past seasons. If he gets a run in this team, 8 million could look like the bargain that we saw from Man United players at the end of last year. So let's be honest, right? A hat-trick is definitely one way to get yourself on the watch list. You can't ignore a hat-trick no matter who scores it, especially when it's a player who then has Fulham at home up next. And interestingly, right, sometimes you overlook these things. I definitely do. And I think perspective in FPL should be used more often. Like sometimes it feels like a player's doing a lot and they're not really, and sometimes you kind of miss just how much a player's playing or how many points they're actually scoring. And I won't lie, I've completely missed just how often Mahrez is playing in the league, right? So Mark, on the stream that we did last night, pointed out that he's actually started 7 of the 9 games so far in the league. And I looked at this a little bit closer. One of the games was against Liverpool. He wasn't even in the squad. And the other game was the first game against Wolves. Now, in the Champions League, he's only started 2 out of 4. And in the EFL Cup, he's played 2 out of 2. So he has played quite a few minutes under Pep for Man City so far this season. And we've seen Pep Guardiola talk about certain players have got the fitness to just go and go and go. So I think it was last season or the season before, it was Bernardo Silva. And then it was Mahrez post-lockdown, right? Pep kind of mentioned it. I think he said, famously said, he's got no muscles in his legs. And that's basically why he can just keep going and going. And it seems to be the case this year as well. And what I think is interesting is Pep's recent comments. Now, I will say Pep is talking quite a lot at the moment and not contradicting himself, but at one point it feels like he's kind of praising certain players and then he's not. So these were the comments he made. He said, Kevin, obviously talking about De Bruyne, was a little exhausted mentally. That's true. But right now I see players who are in better condition or who are more focused. If players believe I'm resting them because I am rotating, it's a big mistake, right? So what I translated that to was, that's pretty good as it is. But basically, and obviously the players probably themselves are seeing rotation because of all the games they've got. But he's saying they're not being benched because they're being rotated or rested. It's because they're not focused or they're not in great condition. That seems to be what he's saying. That doesn't necessarily mean that players are going to keep getting benched. Just because Sterling was benched against Burnley doesn't mean it's going to happen against Fulham as well. But it's quite interesting when you're looking at a player like Mahrez, who Pep has gone on record before to say is one of the fittest players that can just keep playing and playing. And 7 out of 9 starts so far will tell you that. And I haven't got the exact quote here, but Pep also says something about if players are scoring, it's more likely to keep them in the team. And Mahrez has just scored 3 goals, right? So a lot this week is going to depend on Champions League minutes. I've just spoken about that with Cavani. They're still going to have to watch it for Mahrez, because if he goes and plays 90 in the Champions League, then potentially not an option for the next game. If he doesn't, if he's benched, that makes him very interesting. Now, I will say, right, I say quite a few times, this watch list video is not necessarily strictly about players I'm definitely going to bring in. It's players I'm looking at, and also who I think maybe you want me to talk about or get my opinions on. For me, for my team, I have a slot in midfield which it might go to Bruno Fernandes, if not this week, in a few weeks, right? Definitely. I'm sure I'm going to bring him in soon. You'll be glad to know. But right now, I could target the fixture. So I could go for a Man City player against Fulham and then a Liverpool player against Fulham in game week 12, and then maybe get Bruno Fernandes in. And so for me, Mahrez is probably not a long-term hold. Look, if he plays every 7 out of 9 games for the rest of the season, he's going to get big points. But I don't think we can guarantee that. And we know that, we've been here before with players like Mahrez. We know down the line they then become an issue because they don't start enough games. if I could guarantee that he was going to start the next one and potentially even hold him for West Brom and Southampton and just go for a 4-run stretch of games and then maybe look to get rid of him or just get him in for Fulham, then that could be a big score. And obviously part of me will be thinking, we've just scored a hat-trick, is he really going to score another one? But Fulham is not a more difficult game than Burnley. And I said this a million times, like Man City, when they come into these good fixtures, we should be expecting goals. It's just happened against Burnley. Don't see why it wouldn't happen against Fulham in game week 11. And he's on 6.4 points per match so far, which is incredible considering De Bruyne is only on 4.9. Now, there's reasons for that. Obviously, the 17-point haul, or sorry, the hat-trick he just got against Burnley was decent, and De Bruyne has kind of got injured here and there, etc. But it's looking good for Mahrez again. We saw this last year. He just kept getting the points. We didn't put him in because he kept getting rotated. And right now, it's not really happening that much in the league. So, big eye on the Champions League, and then a big eye on whether I want to target the fixtures a bit or just get Bruno Fernandes. And last up, we've got Rafinha. Now, I briefly mentioned him on the deadline stream when someone was looking for a cheap midfielder. So I'm not going to pretend that I've talked about him loads. I knew he was going to score against Everton. But he had kind of come on my radar. We were just really waiting for him to get starts for Leeds to then see what he's all about. Very cheap, just 5.4 million. And I think he just looks like an exciting player to watch, right? And there's so many midfielders that we're talking about at the moment. I mean, there are still a lot of forwards, right? Bamford could have scored against Everton. We'd still be talking about him. Maybe Watkins does well tonight. Wilson's got a great run of fixtures and just got double-digit hauls. People are on Vardy. I've just talked about Cavani. There's a lot of forwards, but there's also a lot of midfielders, right? So if you're on like a 3-5-2 and you need a cheap one, Rafinha, potentially as good value as some of the 6 to 6.5 million forwards. He could be. Maybe still a little bit early, but this is the kind of time sometimes you want to get on a player before they get too many of their points. And I thought it was exciting against Everton. I tweeted out early in the game that he is exciting. I don't know if he's got the end product. And bam, there he goes, gets his goal at the end. What I like about him is when he gets the ball, he carries it forward. And defenders don't like people running at them, right? And then he had some really good passes at the end of that as well. So it wasn't just that he was like a headless chicken just running and no good. There was a really, really good pass to Rafinha, from Rafinha to Harrison quite early on. And how Harrison didn't score, I don't know. I mean, Harrison should have had about 25 points in that game. So on another day, Rafinha gets even more points. And obviously, he got his goal in the end. So I think he looks quite good for 5.4 million. There's a few players around that price now. Neto, Podence, maybe Ward-Prowse up to 6 million. But in terms of the amount of chances that Leeds create, I do like their players, especially if you're not already on someone like Bamford. Fixtures-wise, obviously, bookending the next 4, Chelsea away, Man United away, not great. I still think Leeds will create chances in those games. But I think a lot of this is going to depend on whether they can get that first goal, because Chelsea and Man United feel like games where if Leeds concede first, they're going to concede 2 or 3. If they score first, who knows? Maybe with the other team chasing the game, they'll go on to score more and more. So it's interesting to see what happens there. West Ham at home and Newcastle at home, though, are really good. And for 5.4 million, I guess we shouldn't be expecting massive hauls in those tougher games anyway. So I like the look of him. And I think if you need a cheap midfielder in your squad, he could be one to look at right now. Still early days, still only seen a couple of starts, but I think there's goals and assists with him, right? And he is going to cause defences problems. He's going to draw free kicks and all this stuff. So do like the look of him. Whether or not I can get him into my team is a different matter because of the way I've structured it. I'm going quite heavy in the midfield, but maybe, like I said, if you're going 3-5-2 or you want to stick with Vardy and Kane up front, then a cheap midfield slot could be something that you need. So that's it for this one. Hopefully you've enjoyed it. Please do click that Movember link in the description below if you haven't already. Check it out and donate if you can, right? I'd be really appreciated. I know not everyone will be able to, and that's fair enough, but if you can, please do. And maybe you'll get to see me in a Christmas onesie on one of the streams over Christmas in December. We'll have to wait and see. Like I said, hopefully trying to hit €1,500 by the end of today when this goes out on Monday. Do give the video a like if you've enjoyed it. Always helpful as well to support the channel and subscribe if you're new around here. Quick shout out as always to all the patrons on the Legends Wall who have signed up. Again, link in the description below to that. No new patrons this week, but hopefully we'll have some shout outs for the next couple of videos. So big thanks to everyone that's already signed up, supporting me, supporting the channel. Much appreciated. I'll leave that there. Team selection video tomorrow. I am definitely going to be talking about Bruno Fernandes. He's got another double-digit haul. And maybe, just maybe, I have to bring in the player that has scored more points than Salah. But whether or not it's this week or in a few weeks, I'm still actually genuinely unsure. So there'll be a little bit of tinkering, etc. So that'll be tomorrow. Hit that subscribe button. Hit that like button. Check out Patreon and Movember in the link below. And I will see you very soon.